Hello everyone, I'm Grego, and this is the Yes We Are Open podcast. I'm back in Toronto for this week's story, in the neighborhood of Wallace Emerson, a vibrant West End Toronto neighborhood bordered by Bloor Street to the south, Dufferin Street to the east, Lansdowne Avenue to the west, and the CPR railway tracks to the north. Wallace Emerson was historically an industrial hub, shaped by the Canadian Pacific and National Railways in the late 1800s. This attracted working-class families, particularly Portuguese and Italian immigrants, whose cultural influence remains visible today in local shops and eateries along Bloor Street. As you can hear, the railway is still in use today. The area's housing stock consists mainly of modest early 20th century brick homes, narrow lots, and converted industrial spaces now serving as trendy lofts and condos. Residents enjoy Wallace Emerson Park and the West Toronto Rail Path, a popular urban trail reminiscent of New York's High Line. Known for its eclectic vibe, the neighborhood blends old and new. Artists' studios on Gary Avenue, family-run bakeries, and craft breweries coexist with sleek developments. Annual events like the Big on Bloor Festival celebrate its creative energy. And speaking of creative energy, my destination today is a perfect example of that. It's a business I've used in the past with my band, so I've really been looking forward to my visit today. And that business is Lynx Music. As I walk into the lobby of Lynx Music, I'm immediately confronted by a wall plastered with album covers. I can hear faint music being played in one of the rehearsal studios.
Good. My name is Al. I'm here for the podcast.
Yes, with Ryan.
That's Will, the studio manager. He leads me down a hallway with various doors to different studios, each one with an interesting name and design. Names like The Tavern, The Supernova, God Save the Queen, Styles Basement, Toronto Room. I've rehearsed in that one. Will leads me past the rehearsal studios and past the kitchenette to another area with more studios, only these are meant for recording. He leads me into a large, well-appointed room called simply the Live Room.
Very cool.
Yeah. Ryan asked me to check, do you need any equipment or anything? Or are you...
It's huge. The large screen on one end, a drum kit and PA system, a recording desk along one of the walls, and some couches and a coffee table for visitors. I set up at the recording desk. Then Ryan makes his entrance.
Hey.
Hey.
You Ryan?
Yes, Ryan.
Al.
Pleasure to meet you.
Pleasure to meet you, yeah.
So,
Welcome to your studio.
yeah, thank you very much.
We exchange pleasantries and get started.
My name is Ryan Altschuler. I'm one of the co-owners here at Lynx Music and the sister company Audio Process.
Which opened first, Lynx or Audio Process?
Audio Process opened first, and we officially incorporated in 2012, and Lynx Music officially opened in 2018. I graduated from the Harris Institute, and that's where I got my foot in the door here after trying to figure out what I wanted to do professionally. Upon graduating, I got an internship at a recording studio called Subterranean Sound.
Okay.
It was actually in the basement of one of the owners of Spin Master Toys. They're a big spin toy company in Toronto. So I did my internship there as basically an assistant recording engineer, and that's really where I got to cut my chops quite a bit in terms of the technical aspect of audio and music production. I guess, fortunately for me, about a year and a half in, they decided to go private, the studio. And because of that, they stopped taking on new sort of commercial clients, with the exception of a select few. That was actually really good for me because they essentially gave me a lot of their more entry to mid-level clients.
Yeah.
And I didn't have nearly the same facility they did, but that's what allowed me to get my foot in the door and start building things from the ground up myself. It was just dumb luck. So at the time, the predecessor company, I incorporated myself. It was called Iguana Rock Productions. And I was doing a little bit of audio post for film and TV. And then when we got some of the clients from them, I also had a few connections in the industry on my own. And I was also doing some music production as well.
Now, Lynx, that started in 2018. Did that start with this building?
That's correct. Yeah. So I've been a musician my entire life. I was rehearsing and playing in bands my whole life. We were always using Rehearsal Factory. We're now no longer. And One of my current business partners and co-owners here always had a vision to try and be able to build or create something a lot like Rehearsal Factory, a multi-room rehearsal facility, but really with the intention to really try and raise the bar in terms of the quality and provide a much more community-based, just much better experience for a musician.
You've certainly done that. It's an impressive facility. I was telling you my first time here, when you first came onto my radar, my band came here to practice, and I was blown away by the quality of the rooms and the sound and all just the amenities that you put into every room. You guys have literally thought of everything.
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And we did spend a lot of time, and having been playing in rehearsal facilities our entire life, when we decided to actually take the plunge and go full in with this, we had a pretty good understanding of what really the needs are of the musicians, a lot of the frustrations they had with other facilities. And we had a pretty good intuitive idea of how we could really raise the bar in terms of just the quality and the whole experience for your typical musician or band.
How did you find the building? Why here?
It wasn't easy. We were actually looking for 2 or 3 years it took us to find the perfect facility.
Okay.
And Toronto's quite a challenging city to find an appropriate building or facility to do something like this. It had to be of sufficient size. It had to have good parking. It had to have gone through all the typical regulatory and zoning hoops. We had to be very mindful of the adjacent neighbors. After taking a very proactive search for a number of years, this listing came up on MLS just randomly. What happened was they sold the building to a husband and wife lawyer team who, at the time, probably bought about a dozen or so investment properties. But it turned out it was all a big embezzlement situation.
No.
Yeah. And they got caught. I think they got thrown in jail, and the whole property portfolio, they bought about a dozen properties around the GTA. They all went up for foreclosure at the same time.
Wow.
So we bought the building under power of sale.
So you own the building?
We own the building.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we never would have been able, it would never have made sense financially for us to do this.
It's a big building this deep in the city. You lucked out.
Yes, we lucked out. Exactly. So because of the circuit.
With your own parking, which that's one of the challenges in some of the other rehearsal studios I've had to go to is parking. It's
Very
usually
difficult.
street parking or whatever. It's never, it's really tough to find.
Yeah, exactly.
I couldn't help but notice this morning I got here and there was a train that just came by beside you. And I know that having studios in here, that would be a challenge, but I'm sure it helped you with the zoning. If there's tracks here, then noise isn't a problem, but noise is a problem inside the studio. How much work did it take to make sure that kind of all got isolated?
Yeah, so it's a bit of a double-edged sword with the train.
Sure.
On one hand, because the freight tracks are right beside us, the neighborhood was used to loud trains screaming by, and obviously that's not a neighbor we have to worry about in any capacity, so it's a nice buffer there and set a bit of a expectation and standard in a positive way for us and the neighbors. On the other hand, especially because we do sensitive recording in some of the rooms here, we're not just a rehearsal facility,
Right.
it's a recording facility.
Yeah.
And the room we're in right now, the live room here, this is one of our quote-unquote minimal bleed rooms. So that was a challenge for these rooms in particular. So we actually had to build a floating floor here.
Yeah.
That's completely isolated and decoupled from the ground to avoid some of the vibration and the noise from the tracks. So we worked with one of the top acoustic engineering companies in the city called Air Acoustics, who are phenomenal in terms of helping us do the engineering design to make sure that these rooms were properly mitigated from any of the noise from the tracks. With most of the rooms here, we're predominantly a rehearsal facility. For rehearsal,
Not as much of an issue.
Not
for
an
that.
issue at all.
2018, you opened doors here. Talk about those first few years. How did it go? How were you received in the neighborhood? But also, how did business go?
Obviously, things needed to go well. Financially, at least, we'd be in a very precarious situation if they didn't. So we had a good feeling that we were going to be able to offer a product that was going to really elevate the experience. And when we opened our doors, we did our fair bit of marketing, but we also know the musician community is very word of mouth.
Yeah.
We knew that the parking and the geography being right across the street from one of the flagship Rehearsal Factory property, and knowing we had a good sort of conduit to access a lot of musicians because there's so many of us who were involved in the community here, we knew we had a pretty good shot of success here. And we're very fortunate that word caught on pretty quickly, especially at that time. There was a very robust market around the city, which was evident through the sheer number of facilities and occupancy through our competitors. We got up and we got pretty busy pretty quickly. So within, I'd say, maybe 9 months or so, we were already hitting our occupancy targets by and large.
So let's talk about products and services. You have rehearsal spaces, recording spaces. What other services do you offer?
We started off offering rehearsal and recording, and those certainly evolved to some degree. Since that time, we've expanded our service offerings. Beginning about a year and a half ago, we started offering amp and electronics repairs. So we have an in-house tech, especially on the amp end of things. That's gone quite well. He also services our backline in-house, which has been very helpful. And about a year ago, we started offering and brought in a couple of DJ desks as well.
I noticed that,
Yeah, and that's something, obviously, as demographic continue to change and evolve over time, that's something that we anticipated would be in reasonably high demand. There aren't too many people offering that in the city, and that's had some decent traction as well.
How many staff do you have?
Outside of the ownership, as far as Lynx goes, we've got, I would say, the equivalent of 4 full-time employees on the Lynx end of things. And audio process, we also the equivalent of about 5 or 6 full-time employees.
I imagine you probably have a lot of contractors on that end.
Lots of contractors, and that's a relatively small in-house team.
Sure.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Will Melville, and I'm the studio manager here.
How long have you been working at Lynx Music?
I started in 2017, a few months before we actually opened.
Are you a musician?
I'm a musician, yeah.
You jam in these rooms here?
Yes, I have a couple of bands that we use these rooms to rehearse. They're great spaces.
Let's talk about the rooms. I'm going to try to explain this to the listener. A rehearsal studio typically has a drum kit and a PA system, a very well-used PA system generally, and enough mics for the band and some sound reinforcement. But when you walk in here, it's beautiful. Each of your rooms has a theme and looks like it's like expertly designed. You have a great selection of amplifiers. The drum kits seem to be in amazing shape. But you also have large, massive screens in each room and lighting that you can change the color of and have it set to the music. Where did all these ideas come from?
Yeah. We can thank my wife, who is not an interior designer by profession, but she is a fantastic interior designer, and she did the interior design, all the finishes for all the rooms, and did an incredible job with it. And
kudos.
Yeah.
I played in the Toronto room, which is, again, each room has a theme. So we were in the Toronto room and it had the city's backdrop and stuff. Like really well done.
Yeah, she did a phenomenal job. And we've had so many musicians come in because we know how important that vibe is for the rehearsal, and a lot of them are very sort of arts-minded. So that's been actually really important as part of the user experience here. It was really nice to see that it got to the reception was so good with respect to that.
How many rooms do you have?
We've got 12 right now.
12.
And we're actually expanding. We're building another 3 rooms on the second floor.
Let's talk about Heyday. What would you say has been since 2018, going on 8 years? What's been your busiest time, or are you in it now?
I would say our busiest time was 2019.
Okay.
And then COVID hit, which was a tremendous disruption.
We'll get there,
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. And then I would say in terms of pure busyness, I'd say 2019 and then 2022 to present. It's been pretty steady and consistent.
I know as a musician, there was a lot of competition in the city for rehearsal spaces at the very least. That seems to have shrunk thanks to the pandemic. But when you guys started, it was probably at its peak with how many companies there were out there, and studios were out there. How did you compete? Was it just because your rooms are beautifully equipped, very well kept up? Was it just like quality over price and stuff like that? Or I also noticed you're very competitively priced too. So was that your mission to kind of do that?
We competed on 2 fronts, quality and parking.
Yeah.
Those are the 2. And really offering excellent customer service.
Yeah.
Maybe those 3 things. Musicians are very price sensitive, as you're probably aware of. So we knew that we would not be able to compete on price in a substantial way. That was a big pitfall, especially for a lot of higher end studios, even rehearsal studios. So we knew we're going to have to figure things out to be able to really compete on quality and really bank on higher occupancy with the similar pricing. And when you crunch the numbers, you knew occupancy really is king when it comes to these types of facilities. We knew that the user demand was there. We had a handle on how busy the landscape was and how much demand there was for rehearsal space in the city. Yeah. So we knew that we were able to offer a decidedly superior product and superior service at a comparable price point. We felt in conjunction with our parking that we would have a distinct competitive advantage.
Yeah.
can't stress how big that parking is. Ryan and his partners seem to have thought of everything when building their business. But the journey hasn't always been smooth sailing. There were some major bumps along the way. Some of them may surprise you. What were they? Stay tuned to find out. You're listening to Yes, We Are Open. After years of rehearsing with bands and studios across Toronto, Ryan Altschuler envisioned something better. Together with a couple of partners, he set out to create a space that offered musicians a creative environment, quality service, and competitive pricing. But the road wasn't without obstacles. Early challenges threatened these relatively inexperienced business owners. What were they? Let's find out.
If I were to ask you to think of the most challenging time that maybe even threatened to shut you down, what would that be?
Obviously, as cliche as it was, COVID was exceptionally disruptive for us.
Sure.
We, along with pretty much every other rehearsal facility in the city, had to completely shutter its doors. And obviously, for what probably totaled the better part, if not a bit more than a full year. We were able to furlough a lot of our staff, which was emotionally difficult as well because we didn't want to leave them in a lurch. But because we owned the building, we still had to feel all of the carrying costs, right? We have huge property tax bills, heat and hydro bills, and there was only a minimal amount of government support offered for those sort of things. So financially, it was exceptionally difficult for us. And it was literally about a year and a half after we opened. So it was a very short time frame.
Yeah, because you guys had just opened.
Yeah, so just as we were getting going, breathed a sigh of relief, and then boom, COVID hit so very shortly thereafter. Yeah, it really shook us to our core. It was exceptionally challenging, both financially and psychologically. We didn't know, was there going to be an end in sight, and when would that happen?
Sure.
And what would the implications be?
How close would you say you got? Did you ever have go, no-go meetings with your partner and say, we can go on maybe another month or two like this, and then that's it?
I would say by the time we were at the tail end of our shutdowns, we were starting to get quite worried. But right around that time where we really started to get worried, because we tried to forecast things conservatively, and we did have a good run in 2019. That's when they announced that they have a vaccine and that things were going to hopefully begin to start opening up again soon. So.
How did you feel during that time when there was like no live music happening here?
So we were able to stay open due to kind of a peculiarity with the way that the rules worked. So we weren't able to stay open in the capacity as a rehearsal space, but we were able to stay open because we're a recording studio, which they deemed was like a place of work and therefore had to stay open. So we were open, and we did continue to have sessions while things were totally shut down, which was interesting and good and bad. It was nice to be able to continue to work, obviously.
Fortunately for Audio Process, which around that time was essentially the same company, that was considered essential industry, thankfully, broadcast especially.
Okay.
So thankfully that was able to continue. I guess that maybe leads to the other big subsequent disruption. What happened was just post-COVID, around 2021, 2022, there was a tremendous surge in demand for film and television content, and that actually allowed to a huge explosion in growth within Audio Process and the whole film and TV industry in general.
Right. Yeah, because a lot of the productions are racing to get back at it.
Combined with there was such voracious demand for content.
Yeah, you're right. My Netflix queue was like dwindling. I was running out of things to watch.
Exactly. That's why if you've heard the term streaming wars, that really took hold in around 2022.
So that must have been a boon for you at the time, but did it follow with a bust or something? You're like,
majorly. Yeah. And that was, probably another struggle of equal magnitude to the pandemic. And then the actors and the writer strikes hit in early 2023.
Yeah.
And the whole tower came crumbling down very quickly. It was the biggest disruption to the film and TV industry since inception in over 100 years.
Really?
Yes.
Compared to even previous strikes?
Yes. There was one strike, I believe, mid-century that maybe rivaled it, but there was never any other strike or disruption of that magnitude. But then once the strikes finally got resolved, everyone thought, okay, things are going to really bounce back in 2024. Unfortunately, not the case really at all. What happened was everyone realized in hindsight that the huge boon in 2022 was really artificially inflated because of COVID. And
Sure.
that
It was a
COVID-
bubble. Yeah.
It was a bubble.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what happened was they then subsequently realized, even when the writers and the actors were back, that content demand ongoing wasn't nearly going to be the same magnitude as what they had a few years ago. So budgets got slashed majorly. It was a terrible year. Now, fast forward to today, things are starting to improve.
Sure.
But then, to finish off the trifecta here, now AI is another tremendous up-and-coming concern that is really threatening to undermine huge swaths of the film and television industry.
All right, you brought up the ugly word AI, and it's your latest threat. How real is it, and what are you doing to try to mitigate it?
I think as far as Lynx is concerned, we're quite fortunate and privileged insofar as we're a very difficult business model to kind of undermine, per se. We're really catered to people coming together to play and enjoy and produce music in person. Now, I think especially with a lot of AI tools, you can essentially produce a song with the click of a button now. So we were, and maybe to some degree still are, concerned that, you know, now more than ever, you can do in your bedroom, but you don't need any kind of a studio in order to produce those kind of results, especially on the recording end of things and producing a song. But ultimately, I think what we've realized over time, even prior to the looming threat of AI, is that's not really why people come here. People come here to get together with their friends and their buddies to have a music experience. By and large, we're a hospitality business, and we came to really realize and appreciate that. The vast majority of our clients are non-professionals. They're people like you and I who have day jobs and who want to get together once a week or once a month with their buddies. People who are musically inclined and enjoy playing music together and to have a good time with each other. And that's not something that I think could ever be replaced by AI or undermined in that way.
How relieved were you when things started opening back up and you started hearing live music in here again?
Oh my God, it's a huge relief. It was a tense time, obviously, when we were open and with all the stuff like masking and everything, which it's a tense place to be when you have to be the front face of something when they're dealing with customers. And it was nice when it just everybody could relax and everybody could just come and play music again. It was great.
Right.
A number of things happened here that we've noticed, some concerning and some positive things as well. On the concerning end of things, I always like to talk about bad before good. We find that overall, as far as rehearsals go, it's a bit of an aging demographic. Not nearly as many Gen Zs are coming in for rehearsals, where pre-pandemic, there are tons of people who are still in their 20s, sometimes teenagers jamming. Now there are way fewer. There are still some. But the vast majority of our rehearsal clients here are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. The vast majority.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But on the other hand, as I said, we're opening 3 more recording rooms upstairs. And even in our monthly facility, which has 67 monthly rooms, which was all used to be rehearsal, about 1/3 of those rooms now are rented by people who are doing recording as their kind of primary activity.
Oh, wow.
These are by far our busiest rooms.
Really?
Way higher up, much higher occupancy than even the rehearsal room.
And these are just like individual artists who want a space that they can create in?
That's right. They come in here, they'll rent the live room and use a recording desk for a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hour session. They engineer themselves. They just want a space, where that's either more acoustically treated. They have access to the good gear, but it's also about coming with their buddies and being able just to have fun and jam out. A lot of hip hop artists. And they're coming as a holiday recording / recreational experience, right? Like the rehearsal equivalent, but in a recording capacity. And there's been a big surge in that in demand. And they said that's been really good for us, both in our monthly and our hourly facility. Similarly with DJ, that's something that never would have been a thing probably when we started 8 years ago.
Sounds a little bit, you're getting more into the creator economy now, right?
Yeah,
Where you got podcasters or YouTubers. Do you get any of that in here?
Tons.
Yeah.
Tons of podcasters.
Makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. We don't even advertise ourselves per se as a podcast studio, but we certainly make mention of it. We're well equipped for it. You know, we got SM7s.
Yeah, you got the good stuff. Not like my
people are. I would say there's probably on average a podcast happening in the facility, maybe one a day or one every 2 days.
Oh, wow.
Extremely common. We're definitely into facilitating the creator economy, people shooting commercials, YouTube videos, you name it here as well. And then the last thing, obviously, with the Rehearsal Factory shutting their doors in 2020.
That was a big competitor, and now they're gone. Right?
Yeah, so as much as maybe rehearsal demand per capita has dwindled a little just because of some of those challenges, the demographics, not the case with recording, and the supply for a number of rehearsal rooms probably got cut in half from where it was when we first opened.
So that's helped keep things.
Yeah, not only helped, it actually probably every remaining studio, and there have been a few new ones opened as well. It's definitely been a big boom for them and us.
Coming up after the break, we find out what the future holds for Lynx Music. Welcome back to Yes, We Are Open. Ryan Altschuler and his team at Lynx Music have certainly been through a lot over the last few years. While some challenges still linger, the business has stabilized and found its new normal. So are they ready to start thinking about the future yet? Let's find out.
What does the future look like for Lynx Music?
So the future for Lynx, we are currently constructing 3 more rooms on the second floor here, all recording. We're going to be renting the remaining space out on the second floor. We've got a lot more space for storage for the short term, but we are ready to further expand and invest if the economics make sense and demand is there. Right now, we're doing rehearsal, recording, and DJ in some number of years down the road, possibly enabled by AI or what have you. There could be a new performance or music creation medium that we might need to capitalize on. So we're going to really continue, I think, to pivot and evolve along with the times. I think the bread and butter pure rehearsal facility is going to continue to still be a mainstay, but I think it's important to be a lot more dynamic than that and really follow the creator economy needs and facilitating things that are very on vogue and popular, like podcasting and DJ. And so we're really looking to continue to stay modern and current and not stay stuck in a one rigid business model for the long term.
In terms of expansion beyond this building, I know you bought the studio out in the West End.
That's right.
Any plans on doing that anywhere else, expanding anywhere else in the city or outside the city?
No further expansion plans beyond that. We're very happy with what we have, and we don't see any further expansion to additional facilities beyond these 2.
I mean, what would you like to see your role in the future here be?
My role in the future? I mean, I'm happy to just see the business continue, and hopefully we can continue to grow. Going to be opening rooms on the second floor and keep having bands coming through, and I'm just keep being a part of that.
Looking at what you've built in the last 7+ years, almost 8, how do you feel?
I feel good. I've learned a tremendous amount. I think when I got started, I knew audio quite well, and I think I internally had a pretty good knack on, in terms of products and services. I think I had a lot to learn, though, however, from a business perspective, and I've certainly made my share of mistakes. One thing that's really come into sharp focus is how quickly things can change in the world that create major unforeseen challenges, but also create big opportunities. So just knowing how to capitalize on them and trying to avoid some of those pitfalls. I still enjoy coming into work every day. My role here, as we've grown, has evolved over time, but still very passionate of what we've done. And I'm very excited about what we're going to continue to do in the future.
Okay, thank you very much for your time today, Ryan.
You're welcome.
Is Lynx Music open?
Yes, we're open.
Perfect.
That's the story of Lynx Music. The landscape continues to shift beneath our feet with AI and economic uncertainty. But if there's one thing these past few years have taught us, it's that adaptability and quality will always find their place. One of the things Ryan said in today's story really stuck with me. Lynx isn't just an audio business. They're in the hospitality business. Now that didn't seem right with me at first, but then I looked up hospitality, a broad sector of business focused on providing services for comfort, convenience, and enjoyment. The more I thought of it, the more it made sense. It may seem like such a small distinction, but I think it says a lot about what sets Lynx apart from their competition. Instead of focusing on just the utility of a creative space, making sure all the right equipment is present, Lynx seems to put a lot of stock on the experience of their creative spaces. Yes, they also have all the right equipment, but as a creative myself, I really appreciate that attention to detail. Lynx have become a community hub, a place where musicians, podcasters, DJs, and creators of all kinds come together to pursue their passion. The future of music creation is changing, but the human need for connection, for collaboration, for that shared experience of making music together, that's timeless. And for that reason, I think Lynx Music and Toronto's musicians and creators will continue to make beautiful music together. Yes, We Are Open is a Moneris podcast production. I'd like to thank Will and Ryan for taking the time to share their story. You can learn more about Lynx Music at lynxmusic.ca. Follow them on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. For more information about this podcast, visit our site, yesweareopenpodcast.com. If you'd like to support us, rate us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast. If you're a Canadian small business owner or know of one with an interesting story of perseverance to tell, I'd love to help tell it. You can contact me at podcast@moneris.com. Tune in next week for another story of small business struggle and survival on the Yes, We Are Open podcast. I'm Grego. Thank you for listening.